Thank you very much. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Vesuvius Committee of the Whole meeting, July 16th, 2024 at 9 a.m. in Council Chambers. So first off, I will ask for the approval of the agenda. And are there any late items?
No, there's not.
Thank you. Could I have, thank you, Councillor King, Councillor Federica, all in favor. Thank you. And we need the adoption of the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of June 25th, 2024. I have a motion, please. Councillor Bennett, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you. And so this morning we have some petitions and delegations, and the first one is Mr. Sargent. Would you like to come up to the microphone, please?
My name is Ron Sargent. I live at 14 Chardonnay Court. My concern is all the golf carts that are on Lake Shore. The amount of golf carts that cross the road, sometimes go up to the parking or down the road to the old spot where they park, and they have no insurance if they are hit by a car. The other day, there was a couple with their two young kids sitting on their laps, going along Lake Shore to go across the street to the park with all of their swim equipment. Now, I came and talked to a few people. Gene, I find correct, back in the first year I was here about that. Now, they did a few years ago, Christy Clark was the premier, and there was a couple of communities that wanted to use golf carts for getting to the beach and golf courses and stuff. One of the communities was Qualicum. They dropped out of the test communities, but Chase continued through. That was back in 2017. Chase still allows golf carts on the road. They just have to pass through ICBC. There are qualifications they have to have. I've actually printed off one copy, but they have to have seat belts, brake lights, turn signals, reflectors, rear view mirror, a horn, daylights, and turn signals. They have to be able to do 30 kilometers an hour to drive along the streets. They are allowed to go year round. They have to have good tires, or they are not allowed to drive in the wintertime when the roads are icy. They have been on the streets down there for, like I said, since 2017. They have to have ICBC insurance. They have to have pass a safety inspection, so to prove they have all of the above. Then they have to go down to City Hall, and City Hall gives them a permit to stick on there. They have to register the golf carts at City Hall. All of that's all on the webpage, but I don't feel that the golf carts should be allowed to drive on our streets unless they go get ICBC insurance. If a child falls out of the golf cart, as long as we allow them to drive on the street, park their cars, the things on the street, then I would say the town would be liable. They could sue the town if there's any head injuries or anything else. I was looking into it's not a golf cart. It is street legal as long as the authorities allow it. It goes 42 kilometers an hour. It's got doors, it's got all the turn signals, but you still have to have the approval of whichever town you're going to use it in. It would be great, put your canoe on top of it, get it down to the lake without having a second vehicle or whatever. You can use that for getting up and down. But if I drive that on the street or anybody else, I would get pulled over, get a ticket. That one has turn signals and everything else. So I feel that the law says no uninsured vehicles on the road. And I've talked to the RCMP about it. They said it's up to the town. They also have said, oh, well, it's only 2 months of the year, 3 months of the year. Doesn't matter how many months of the year. We don't allow bank robbers to rob a bank for 2 months of the year. The law has to be the law. We ticket people downtown that mark 10 minutes too long. We have to start ticketing or telling these people they cannot use their golf carts on the road to carry the beach stuff down. Or the golf course, they can't drive from their house 2 blocks to the golf course with the golf clubs. You don't know when you're behind them, whether they're turning, braking, or any of that. So as a safety issue, it's just should not be allowed. I don't have a problem if we go through and have golf carts on the road the same way as Chase and any other company or community does it. But if you don't, then they should be ticketed like everybody else, impounded, whatever. That's my concern.
Thank you, Mr. Sergeant. We have gone through this issue before and we have talked to the RCMP about it as well. So we're certainly aware of the issue. But thank you for bringing this up again. I'm wondering if council has any questions for Mr. Sergeant. Well, thank you very much. You know that this is just an information meeting and we do not make any changes or any decisions at this meeting.
But I understand that, but I then should be able to take my golf cart and drive 4 or 5 blocks to the beach with my canoe on its route.
I don't think so, but you would have to check with the police.
But I have checked and it's the same thing. 1 block, 500 feet, still road.
Thank you. We will then check again with the police. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Serious Lawn Bowling Club and Mr. Dubé.
Mayor and Council, my name is Paul Dubé. I'm the president of the Serious Lawn Bowling Club. We're here seeking an exemption from water restrictions. I provided each of you with a presentation that shows damage that still exists on our green based on some water disruptions last year. It's essential for us to have green, and that's made of grass. And in order for that to exist, it has to be watered. And we have to have assurance of constant watering, particularly in this time of year with the temperatures as they are. We're still trying to fix the things that happened last year, and that takes extra care, attention, and watering. So I can go into great detail about what the problem was, but this fact is that we were told that we were not allowed to water, that we'd be subject to the water restrictions. That will completely kill our green. So.
Thank you, and thank you for the pictures. You do know that we have watering that is allowed twice a week at this point, and that's what you're using. And what, if that isn't sufficient, what are you requesting?
Well, at the moment, we're part of the park's watering system,
Yes,
right? But we're not in control of it, so we don't know for sure. We asked for watering it before the restrictions were in place. I believe we were getting 45 minutes a day of watering. I think it comes on 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's been fine. We have hand watered certain the damaged areas. We're seemingly raising an entire crop of quail, but we are making a bit of progress as we go through. It hasn't had a big effect. We had a major tournament planned early this year. We had to cancel it because we couldn't have people come up and say, "Oh, this is a Serious Lawn Bowling Green." No, it's a sandy desert sort of looking thing. So we had to cancel that. We were hoping to reinstate that for next year and Father's Day weekend. It'll be a nice attraction to the town. We're going to have 100 or so people from our town come in and bowl for the weekend. So.
May I ask, you said you had to cancel the tournament this year, but that was obviously canceled and it was scheduled for before we put in the 2-day-a-week water restriction, am I correct?
Yeah, so what's happened to our green is a result of what happened last August. And then in January, I think the snap freeze really put it to death. But we haven't been able to bring it back, and that's a big problem. Another fact that should be thought of is we checked with all the other clubs in the valley. And I also have my Lower Mainland experience. All other bowling clubs in the valley are part of parks and are designated as parkland, and therefore are not subject to residential water restrictions. And I mean, it's hard to say that our green is not part of Gyro Park. We lease the property from the city. And in public areas, you just can't let things die. Public or private property is private property, and I understand. For us, it's the only thing we have is a green.
Thank you. I'll just see if anyone else has any questions. Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam. I'm just looking at your last sentence in this presentation, you kind of hit on it. Bowling greens and BC Interior are classified differently and do not face water restrictions. Is that some type of resolute or government, or is it just because it's a park?
I think it's because they're all like Vernon's is part of Confederation Park. Colonis is in their main park on their beach. Penticton is actually in downtown Penticton, but they've taken that piece of property and designated it as a park. So.
Thank you.
Councillor Chong.
Thank you. Question for Director Davis. Is it stipulated in the lease agreement that we have to maintain the level of greenery in that region?
It actually doesn't come right out to say that's our responsibility. The responsibility of the greens itself, obviously the day-to-day stuff would be for the lawn bowling club. But the town, because it is part of the park, would have that responsibility to make sure the overall appearance and whatnot would be intact.
Follow-up question.
Go ahead.
My understanding is the watering system of Gyro is fairly outdated. It's difficult to isolate zones because it's a hydraulic system, if I recall correctly.
Your worship, Council Chong, maybe get some assistance here, but you are correct. I know that system is extremely outdated, extremely difficult to adjust the timers. I think you may recall last year we attempted to reduce watering. I think it took us almost a day to adjust all the timers throughout the town, because it's just so old the way the zones are set up. We do plan to change that irrigation system, but we're waiting to the Gyro Park charrettes to figure out long-term plan there. The last thing we want to do is go in and change that system, because it will be likely in excess of $100,000 to change. So we are waiting on that piece. And just to further state that it is extremely difficult to adjust, monitor the water in the park. I don't know how the zones are actually set up within Gyro, if we even have the ability to do certain areas more. I mean, something the administration can go back and look at, but anything else to add? Yeah, it's a very difficult system. So I couldn't answer the question right now if the town could put additional water on that without doing 50% of the additional part.
Can I add something? Can I add something?
Yes, go ahead.
We do have a secondary water source, and that is through the senior center. So if we're granted an exemption, we can use a sprinkler system tied into that, which therefore won't take water from the park system, but you guys can do what you need to do with the park system. But it would keep us alive.
Did you have go ahead if you had a suggestion. Yeah.
What type of grass does the lawn, what does it consist of, what type?
It's a bent grass, it's a putting green essentially,
Perfect.
right? But it's kept shorter and finer than you would find in a typical golf course. So it's not particularly resilient. I mentioned in the presentation that we're seeking to improve and change, and we're seeking funding to do so. But again, we were part of the Yarrow part. Thing. So we know that things are probably gonna change. So we'll definitely be able to work with Parks Department to say, okay, we're staying here, this is what we do, and we have avenues to get outside grants we get about 100,000 or so to redo the green. If we're gonna stay, if we're not gonna stay, well, that's a whole other story.
And I asked that question about the type of grass because this looks very similar to a lot of the winter kill that Sue's Golf Club had.
Yes.
And a lot of it, from my discussions with the superintendent, was a kill in the winter because it halfway died at -20. But I'm really, they've had struggles as well. So I would support a water exemption so that we can heal up the green as best as possible. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Can I just add that I'm wondering if we could check with with Public Works and see how the water system works down there, and if there's anything that we could do right now would that be possible, Mr. Risman? Could we have a look at what's available down there, what their schedule is, and see if there's something that could be done right away? I don't know.
Absolutely, your worship, we can check into if that's its own zone. It sounds like there is an option, even if the town does not have the ability to do it. It sounds like there's another option that the club could use, but definitely administration will look into it and see if we can change that, so.
Thank you. Go ahead and come to John.
But this seems to be time sensitive because the temperatures don't seem to be cooling down over the next week or two.
Right.
So in the meantime, as we do explore and speak with our operations, can I move a recommendation to look into a interim water exemption during that time period? I just want to prevent any further death, and I want to make sure that we can thrive and recover that green.
We have.
Your worship,
Yeah.
yeah, a motion can be made, from committee to council, so we can put it on the agenda this afternoon to, debate. Yeah, so motion, something like that, the committee recommends the council to consider exemptions for the lawn bowling club. And for administration to, seek options to, ensure that the greens remain healthy. Debate.
Thank
This
you.
afternoon, hopefully get an answer for you as far as the town system.
Councillor Bennett has seconded that. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
We will look at that later. And next we have Mr. Lamb from the Casa de Lago.
Good morning. Thank you, your worship, members of council, for allowing us to speak to you today. I'm John Lamb, and this is Brian Karen with me. We're members of the strata of Casa de Lago, and we're here to talk about water also. We appreciate the intent of the water restrictions, and we actually are very aware of the situation within the town. We're seeking latitude for our landscaping watering, not the number of days, but just the duration of running the system. Right now, to my application, I put there's, I think, 24 zones. There's actually 53 zones. And with 4 hours, that makes it, C3 has told us that averages about 12 minutes sprinkler, which doesn't even get past the breath. So we're looking for not more days, but longer duration on watering.
Well, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor King.
Yeah. Does your water also do the grass across the road next to the lake?
Yes, yeah, the whole lawn from the road right down to the beach, yes.
Okay, thank you very much, and I know that, we will probably hear from other people too. Can I make a suggestion here? The Councillor, CAO, Risling, would that be appropriate to do that?
Absolutely, your worship. I think council should be aware that, we've had at least one more inquiry, regarding not additional water, but more flexible times due to the number of zones that they have. They just can't get through all their zones in the reduced time period of 12 to 4. I just wanted to bring that to council's attention. I'm assuming we'll have more. And so, yeah, so I think council should just be aware that this is kind of almost the last council meeting as well. You know, if changes aren't made, basically today,
Yeah.
things will die. So, depending what council wants to do, I just want to bring up that additional information. So, you guys should be.
Thank you. So, Mrs. Robinson has contacted our lawyer to check and see what we could do with these situations. And, has come up with a recommendation for council, which I will read. That committee recommends that council endorse exceptions for properties that are strata owned, regulated. These properties should submit a written request to the town, following which the chief administrative officer is authorized to approve, provided there is strict adherence to the staged restrictions as outlined below. Water restrictions for watering 3 days a week. This allows the strata to use each sprinkler head to a maximum of 3 days per week. Water restrictions for watering 2 days a week. This allows the strata to use each sprinkler head for a maximum of 2 days a week. And water restrictions for 1 day a week allows the sprinkler head a maximum of 1. And that the schedule for the use of the sprinkler heads be approved by administration. And that any violations or abuse of the schedule, the agreement will be null and void. That is the recommendation. If someone would like to discuss that, yes, go ahead.
I worship just a couple points.
Yeah.
If we could change strata to property, because there may be properties out there that are not strata, but in the same situation.
Absolutely.
And also provide council a bit of an update, the council knows we monitor reservoirs very well beyond regularly, but you know, it's down to the minute as far as how good the system monitors it. The town as a whole has done really well, as far as conservation measures. We have seen reduction in our reservoirs this past weekend. It's getting very close to that period of time that we may have to implement stage 1. We're debating as we speak, but I just want to give a little bit of a accolades to the town as far as people trying to adhere to it. It's quite remarkable that we've gone this far to maintain where we're at, and so I just want to give a bit of a kudos on that. Maybe what some of these properties that do move off the regular schedule, because that's one of the conditions, is we typically work with the entity to change the days, which then takes a little bit of stress off the high functioning days. So over from administration side, we don't have the horsepower to deal with a lot of this type of stuff. There is a benefit, I guess, overall to the community in allowing some of these properties to shift to a different days. I just wanted to add that piece. So if you could change your motion, probably the most important part, or add a property,
Absolutely.
then you can debate and.
Thank you very much, and I do appreciate the fact that this what your thoughts on thanking people was put out in e-news, and I think that was a good way to say to people, yes, you're doing the right thing. So what we will, if we get this recommendation, we can look at all properties, including Casa del Lago, but you'd you would have to follow the,
Absolutely.
what is that right here, for sure. So could I have you recommending?
A question.
Yes.
This is gonna be moved to this afternoon's agenda to get passed, it's gonna be moved to this afternoon.
That's what it says,
Okay.
recommends to council endorse. Okay, so, moved by Councillor Poderica, seconded by Councillor Chong, that we have a look at this, and recommendation that we're this afternoon. Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Saying that, and all of the water restrictions that we have, we certainly do know that this hot weather is going to, sort of play havoc with our water and our wells and everything for the time being. So we really appreciate everybody doing their absolute best to water only when necessary, even indoor water too. I mean, lawns is a huge issue and gardens, but indoor water is also just as important because it all comes from the same wells. Okay, next we have the fire underwriter survey, and that will be Chief Portmeyer. And thank you to our two assistant chiefs who have also joined.
Good morning, Mayor, through you to the rest of council. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the fire underwriter survey with a 2024 update. So, Fire Underwriter Survey is a national organization that represents approximately 90% of all of the private sector and casualty insurers operating in Canada. Fire Underwriter Survey provides data to program subscribers regarding public fire protection for fire insurance statistical and underwriting evaluation. And we'll go over that in a little bit about exactly what that means. In August of 2023, the fire department wanted to do a formal review. We worked with operational services to gather the necessary information for a review of the Toronto Associates insurance grading. And we sent all of that information off last August to FUS. Oops. So when we're dealing with FUS, when it comes to public fire protection, there's really two lines of insurance that deal with FUS. One is the commercial lines, and the other one is the residential or private lines. So the first classification is the public fire protection classification. It is a numerical grading system graded from 1 to 10 used by commercial insurers. Class 1 is the highest grading possible. 10 represents a unprotected level of insurance that you could get for your commercial, industrial, or business application. In the commercial lines, they use a 5-kilometer threshold from the nearest responding fire hall. The dwelling grade protection is a second grade for fire protection. The second grading system is the DPG, or the dwelling protection grade. This assesses the protection available for smaller buildings, such as single-family homes. It has a scaled classification numerically from 1 to 5. 1 is the highest grading possible, 5 being unprotected. And that again is a little bit of a difference from the commercial lines. They use an 8-kilometer threshold. In insurance lines, it's easier to say that you either are fully protected, semi-protected, or unprotected. So what changed? The public fire protection classification with our insurance suggestion of a formal review, we actually got some good news. If you're hydrant protected, that is a recognized fire FUS hydrant protected system, which has a built-in redundancy. So it's not just one fire hydrant. It's a number that has a redundancy built into it. So if one hydrant is not operational, we can loop into another one. So all of those business, commercial, or industrial applications may see the insurance savings in their 2025 or 2026 insurance policies. That's also if the insurance companies that they utilize utilize FUS as part of the statistical maneuvering to create those insurance tables. So in this commercial world, you have protected, which is hydrants, and within 5 kilometers. Semi-protected being within that 5 kilometer, but outside of that mechanized hydrant system, or unprotected being outside of that 5 kilometers without, being outside of that 5 kilometer protection from a fire hall. And what remained the same? So the dwelling protection grade for those air quotation residential single family or smaller type dwellings, it all remained the same. So the previous DPG for the town of Osoyoos was 3A, 3B for the town of Osoyoos and or surrounding citizens that would fall in the rural area, and 5 being unprotected, which is outside of the 8 kilometer mark of the responding fire hall. So the areas of assessments that they use for statistical crunching down of numbers for insurance tables are 19 metrics from engine service, how many engines do we have? Ladders, how many ladders do we have? Distribution of companies, we have 1 company at Hall 1, which is on 74th, and Hall 2, which is on 51st. They also look at the design, maintenance, and conditions of your fire apparatus, the number of line officers, total firefighting force available, mass burden, special streams, all the way down to pre-incident planning and administration. So these are metrics that are used to either for your commercial lines or personal lines to get statistical information that goes out to the property casualty insurers. And what does it look like? So the green is the garnered credit that we received from the FUS review, and the red is the available credit that is out there that we can actually glean from potentially to affect insurance rates in the future. So if you look at FD2, you can see that that is a direct correlation to not having a ladder piece of apparatus in our fleet. FD7, which is your total firefighting force available, that metric can be changed dependent on full-time firefighters. So some municipalities choose to have full-time firefighters at the halls, manning 24/7. That is a much deeper conversation for municipalities because of cost. And then 18, FD 18, which is your pre-incident planning. And pre-incident planning is basically a planning document developed by gathering a whole bunch of general and detailed data that is used for responding personnel to respond to those larger type structures and complex buildings. So the Osoyoos Fire Rescue was established in, I guess, 1939, and for 80 years we remained a volunteer fire department until 2019. So the formal pre-incident plans have not been there. So we're in the throes of creating those pre-incident plans, but they are a very detailed document, and if mayor and council wants to see what a pre-incident plan is, I actually have a couple here to share for you after the presentation. So the areas of assessment, these areas of assessment, those 19 metrics, staff will be proposing certain changes potentially, and those should be considered by council in a healthy debate for strategic long-term planning for public fire protection services or the municipal and structure development. Such improvements have a direct impact on those fire insurance rating rates, and which may result in reductions for the town of Osoyoos residents and their surrounding citizens. So the good news in closing, we were able to affect protected commercial lines, which means that they have moved from a 7 to a 6. I'd like to say that these savings would be instantaneous, but I imagine as it trickles down to the end user, it might take some time from the 2025 to 2026 year. And that's also if your insurance companies use FUS as the business that they use to generate those statistical data for public fire protection here in the town of Osoyoos. So in closing, we have some work to do. So we're going to work on the follow-up questions on page 7 of the report. in hopes that we can continue to work further to help with these reductions in insurance rating for the town of Osoyoos. I also want to say thank you both to Deputy Chief Ron McCaskill and Deputy Chief Rob Hunnema for their efforts, because without them being involved in this process, along with myself, we would not be able to have those types of movements with insurance classification. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Chief Gortmeyer. Yeah, I had a couple, but let's start with Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just like a public document, so if I own a business in town, could I get this report and kind of get in touch with my insurer, and then with my insurer get back to you, or how would the process work? I'm trying to save money here.
It's actually up to the insurance companies to update their tables. So FUS is a nationally recognized statistical engine that creates those policies. They will filter it down to the insurance companies, and the insurance companies will filter it down to the end user. Fire department is out of this. We just wanted a formal review to see if we could affect savings in the community, which we did. So it's it has potential for savings. I'd like to say that, you know, it's going to be a 10, 15, 20%, but that is up to the actuarials that run the insurance companies to filter that down to municipalities.
Just one follow-up thing. So is this more of an internal document, or do you send it in so it gets into that database, or how does it cross over to that database?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor King. So the document itself has been prepared by FUS and provided to us. That document is just a catch-all for the reasons for the statistical and percentages and the table changes. All of that will then get sent out to their property casualty insurers that people subscribe to for that FUS. So it's really just a very nice thing that FUS did to share this document, identifying that the commercial rates have been reduced. So that will be between FUS, their member insurance companies, down to the end user. So it's outside of our hands, but FUS will be sharing this information with other property casualty insurers.
Thank you very much. Is this something you do every 2 years or 4 years, or?
Well, it hasn't been done for some time. That's why we pushed for it in August. And we really want to get a handle on some of those additional questions on 7 to see if we can take that available credit and move it towards our advantage, because we would really like to affect the single family homes and those residential policies.
Can I ask, now, I know that you work with the Rural Fire District as well, and OIB, do they get involved in these recommendations and the process to do it, or is that just up to the Suez Fire Rescue to deal with it? How involved are the other groups that pay into it? They're not, insurance companies are involved in the process. But really it's up to the member municipality to actually have a review of FUS. And that review we felt was timely and it needed to be completed. And really what it allows the town to approach fire underwriter survey for those potential reductions for an evaluation. Not only that, but they actually do quite a good thing through the recommendations of the available credit. Mayor and council then can deliberate on the additional things where there would be credit scores available, so that we could actually fund those things in the future. So my question was, is the Osoyoos Rural Fire Directors, are they involved?
No.
No, they're not.
Not the Osoyoos Rural Fire Protection District or the Osoyoos Indian.
Okay.
And we went at this in hopes that we could change the rate tables, the town of Osoyoos. So it will affect them as well, likely. It potentially could. Yeah. Being an insurance policy, if FUS does the statistical data collection and crunching for those insurance companies, it can affect everyone. Okay. It has the potential to. And I know that this might be a touchy question, but the color of all the fire hydrants, I mean,
I get more questions about this and about why you've got them all painted differently and the tops are different and the bottoms and there's quite a few combinations out there and nobody seems to understand it, but I'm assuming you three do.
So we actually have a hydrant identification system that is agreed upon by public or operational services and rural areas. So each one of those colors will denote volume and flow. So it makes sense to us. It might not make sense to the residents. It just allows us to know whether or not we should be looking at maybe taking a different hydrant than the one that is presenting itself. So,
Okay.
and then some are just decoratively painted. Look like the hedge that it's hiding in.
Well, it's just people say to me, well, this one in town is painted this color and this one in front of my house and I have the same, it's the usual thing. They just don't understand, but I can't answer that because I don't either. So I appreciate the fact that my neighbor is a new member of the Azutis Fire, the Rural Fire District. And he's quite interested in learning more, and that's exactly what we need. We need people to be involved and learn more and understand why all of these things, and the fire underwriters report is important. So I do appreciate everything that you guys do. Go ahead, Councillor Padarika.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to thank Chief Burtmeyer and so Chief Homa and the Castle. Obviously, this is a lot of work. This is some updates that have long been needed. It has generated some success and results. I just want to thank you guys for doing the work that needs to be done here. Obviously, the changes in the last couple of years have affected that score, and the response to the additional question from hoping that further pushes that those factors to further benefit the community. So thank you for your work on that.
Go ahead, Councillor Chung.
Thank you. In the water supply section with WS6 fire flow delivery by mains, I see there is some credit available, a little over 150. How could we affect change to improve that?
It's a very interesting question. So, we did this review kind of last year. So we got all the documents together and released it to FOSS, and they said that they would get back to us in a couple of weeks. So after a couple of months, we asked for if there was any clarification that we could do to actually speed up the process or to come with a decision. And the decision came back quite quickly after that. So we're working through what each one of these line items means for getting the amount of credit that is available to us. And that is going to include a little bit more of a dialogue for that the town of Azutis has with fire underwriter survey moving forward. So we're looking for some deeper explanations as to why we were given certain grading comparatively to others, because they received a massive amount of information and then this came back. So we just want to follow up with them to be able to be sure that we have the available grading that we're due. So I don't know if it was some of the water issues that was in the news that might have affected this, but yeah, we're looking for a little bit more thoughtful considerations when it comes to some of the 19 metrics that we use for grading. If that answers your question without answering your question.
So I guess summarize, that score should be higher. We don't know why it's lower.
I think that there's some time for some thoughtful conversations around some of the metrics and the reasons why they're at their level. And so, like as we identified in the report or in the PowerPoint presentation, we're going to work on answering as many of those questions as we can and getting in further information that trust would need. Because we really want to try to be able to make some traction with some of the grading tables, because I think that there's room there that we can affect at least one or two more.
And, no, and again, to echo the sentiments of Council Paprika, thank you for all the hard work that you guys have put into this, report and the continuous work that you do every day. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate all of you. It certainly, over the years has, become a much better system over there. So we're happy to give kudos where we see it all the time. So thank you, all of you. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you. We will, I will look for a motion that the committee receive the fire underwriter survey letter dated June the 6th, 2024 for information. Councillor King, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you. And Director Davis, what are you up next? Yes, with digital signage policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Before you is a draft digital signage policy. Earlier this year, we received a digital sign that is now installed on the highway by the Sunville Arena. And we just want to make sure that we're utilizing this proper format for the community. We also want to make sure that it helps, spread the word, proper communication with our special event groups and our facility users. So what we've done with this policy is fairly straightforward. We're just zoning in right now on our nonprofit groups and the facility users such as minor hockey, figure skating, etc. There would be no cost to this. It was a sign that was purchased through our RMI funding for the purpose of announcements, etc., to actually increase that communication for special events in the off season. So this is being brought before council for discussion and debate.
Thank you, Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I think the signage is a plus asset to the town. My question would be though, if a nonprofit complies and they're a nonprofit and want to use it, what's the length of time they can be on the sign? It's not in the policy.
Madam Mayor to Councillor King, we could actually add some of that in there. We could probably add 2 weeks prior to an event or something leading up to that event. Right now, we don't, it's not too detailed because we are using it. We are getting requests and we really don't want to use it for the wrong reasons. So we can address that and we can put something in the policy that would address the timing for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that would be very important. And then if two nonprofits wanted it on the same day, who gets priority?
That would be a great question, Councillor King. That would have to be something that administration would just see what would be the most benefit to the community. And then that would just take precedence for sure.
Thank you.
And maybe just to further add, I mean, one of the positives of the sign is that it can hold multiple messages. So the issue we have though is that, people are driving by, you keep it up, 4 or 5 seconds, you can only see 1 or 2. So it's one of the things that we've talked about, so if we put 10 on that sign, well, you have to drive by that sign 15 times to see one. So I think one of the issues is, stated, we want to have something that's put in place. And as we go through this process, we'll find some of these anomalies that this isn't really working well, this isn't. And so maybe modifications may be required. But I think the critical piece here was, let's get something, so at least we're on the same page as far as what stuff should be put on a sign. And again, I really do appreciate the questions because we had the same ones internally, and it's how specific do you get in here, not knowing what's gonna happen. But so great discussion and hope there's more of it, because this is a tough one to balance and we don't know exactly what's gonna come down the pipe in the future, so good questions.
So, my thinking is that events that involve the entire community, such as Cherry Fiesta, there's a good example. To me, that would have a higher priority than others, because there's so many people involved in that one. The people who get community grants obviously have, a very unorganized, presentation and budget to the grant committee. And to me, those ones should be considered as well. If you have time and you don't have anything else on, then I can see, but I think you need to maybe make a bit of a priority of who might be considered first, second, third. Not that I'm suggesting anything, but certainly a high priority for the town as a general should get, I think, the highest priority on there. Anybody else have any suggestions? Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Richard. Richard Davis. The operating or the maintaining of the sign, let's say the slide deck. Is that done, that's done remotely, is that done, is there a backup to that in case, let's say we have a facility that we're not able to access?
Madam Mayor, to Council Frederica. So right now, we actually are utilizing an online service for that purpose. Everything is backed up, as it is, like our drive, in our main drive here. So that wouldn't be an issue at all. It's fairly easy to use. To address the priorities in terms of first, second, third, etc. We can put everything up there. It's just the timing, the size of the ad, those kind of things, and that's, I think, what we would need to play with. So if there were 2, 3, 4 events going on the weekend, we can line them up and just let them run a little bit more often than we would if it was just say Cherry Fiesta 2 weeks away and let that go, every couple of minutes instead of every 10 seconds. So it would be just a matter of timing. And yeah, it is very easy to use and simple to manipulate.
So when I drove by it this morning, it just had Vesuvius, the sign up there, so there's nothing going on then, I'm assuming. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure there's a lot going on. You just didn't have anything posted up there today.
Yeah, well, we're number one.
Good. Anything else? Anybody want to say about that? Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to, because one of the things that we will do once we get this ironed out, the thing is, potentially advertise, if it is a store, we can advertise stuff into the future. And in doing that, somebody driving in today and you see All Hallows and October, maybe that's something they can do. So I think there's a lot of things maybe that we can experiment with, and that's why it might make it tough to put in the policy.
Yes.
But again, I think it's a fantastic communication tool that we're fortunate to actually even have this discussion. But as you folks have brought up, it's all these little detailed questions that I'm certain we're gonna get criticized for. And so, yeah, so there's some benefits of actually including more into the policy that we can say this is exactly what we're doing. And then on the flip side, maybe then it hinders our ability to do additional things. So yeah, I really appreciate the discussion that was here. It's great comments, and we'll take them back and attempt to incorporate some of those.
Okay, Director Davis, did you have anything else that you were hoping we might question you on or bring up? No, are we okay? If you've got written down that we looked at perhaps the length of time and how much that we allow it up there, and also I'm assuming the amount of time that the ad stays visible. I mean, it might be 5 seconds, 10, whatever. So you're gonna look at those, and does that sort of depend on the number of options that you have for that day, or how do you have to kind of guess? I mean, if you've only got 3 things that are on there, obviously they can have a little bit longer time than if you had 8.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So the only other thing with this policy, and I do appreciate the actual input is awesome, thank you very much. This could also, you know, morph into something else in terms of other digital signage. So it could be something, you know, we had talked about putting something at the 85th Street Plaza, where we would do something on a smaller scale, obviously. Where we would still address and keep those same, policy intact. So just keep that in mind, that it is at the highway for now. But as we, continue to grow this, or maybe get an opportunity for other funding to get other options in place, we could have, more for the future for sure.
Great, no, I really appreciate it, because I drive by it a couple times a day, so I appreciate seeing it. Anything else? Did you need a motion for this? No, you got the information, all right. So, I think that's the end, Councillor King, second. So it's been terminated by Councillor King and Councillor Paprika. All in favor?